Welcome to Secrets Out Idaho. Each week, we let you in on the secrets of Southern Idaho and speak to the people who make it such a unique, hidden gem. I'm your host, Connie Stouffer. On today's episode, we'll be hearing what it was like to grow up off the grid in Idaho's wilderness and how that's inspired a career of giving back when we speak to Sonya Haines, the Resource Development Director of the United Way of South Central Idaho. Sonya Haines, thank you for joining us on Secrets Out Idaho. I'm so excited to talk to you because you have a fascinating story and do so much in the community. But first, I just want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be able to share some of my past and my experiences, which has led me to the United Way of South Central Idaho. So thank you.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great place to start. So tell me a little bit about what you do at the United Way.
So at United Way of South Central Idaho, we serve 11 counties and jackpots. So to kind of give you some parameters, that would go all the way to Mountain Home, all the way up through Fairfield and all the way to Stanley, comes all the way down through Arco. All the way to the other side of Arco towards Howe. If anyone is familiar with Idaho, they'll know where Howe is. And then if you were to continue down through the state, it would end at American Falls and then come all the way back through Burley and Rupert and Declo and all those other little cities down there. And we also include Jackpot. So we serve a really vast, wide range of serving the community. And my position is I'm a Resource Development Director. And I was sharing with you earlier, it's just relationships. We have over 200 employer campaigns. We're the largest nonprofit that is able to work within companies that allows for employees to give through their paycheck and pledges, and that allows for them to designate or trust what we're doing and be able to give to our community fund. And it really allows us to have mobile eyeglass units and impact schools and help the Valley House and Voices Against Violence and so on and so forth. So it's just a really, really great organization.
That's amazing. So you cover a lot of beautiful communities and a lot of Idaho and are doing all sorts of different things with interesting organizations and people. And so you're out there seeing a lot of beautiful Idaho. Oh,
I love Idaho. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. And this is, I think, where you were sharing my story a little bit and heard a little bit about it. But yes, I'm in my car a lot. But my history is I was actually born in Pennsylvania. I was born actually not too far away from where Faber-Cal originated and Chobani originated, which is exciting. So I was considered kind of upstate New York. I was born in Tunkhannock near the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania. And in 1981, my parents wanted to get us to a different part of the world where there wasn't so much crime and drugs and depression. So we moved out west in a school bus made into a camper. And my parents bought a piece of property north of Salmon, about 37 miles into the wilderness, that was owned by Chief Joseph's grandson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was really, really cool. And my dad was going to get this awesome job with the logging companies, and salmon at that time, they were booming, and it was just a lot of industry and a lot of great things going on in salmon. And we moved there in November of 1981. In the early spring of 1982, all the logging dried up and there wasn't much work. And so we definitely went into a different level of living. I would say that, we were poor, but we were rich in a lot of other things. And so it just kind of goes in that way. But the great thing about salmon is in that area, and if you come from a small town, which we're surrounded by them, right, is that you live with a lot of people that share the same demographics. There's very few people that are wealthy. They're your neighbors in the same position. And so I always tell people that one of the reasons why I'm successful is because of the potluck mentality. So in our community, when you truly are having a potluck mentality, you don't ask people to bring a certain item to the meal because it's a certain theme. You literally ask people, what do they have? And they say, well, I have a fish that we caught yesterday, and I have potatoes that we, dug up this morning. And so, and between all of, my mom and her friends and my dad and his friends, they would make a meal. And that's how they fed, a lot of kids and a lot of people. So.
Well, I think it helps. Just hearing about your story before, it helped you have a real connection to the wilderness and the outdoors in Idaho that a lot of people don't have. I've lived in Idaho for a long time, and I am so fascinated with all of your passion for the outdoors. In fact, I remember when I first met you, it was in Jerome at an event, and I had spoke at it, I think, and then you came up to me and were just telling me all about the amazing things that there are to see and do in Idaho, particularly the hot springs. And I think that's only something you get if you've really been in and experiencing the outdoors in Idaho.
Well, there's a mentality growing up in a small town like Salmon, and I always joke around about it. So everyone up there crafts, and they live off the land, and they horn hunt for Christmas money. And we
what does horn hunt mean?
Horn hunting is animal or elk and deer. They shed their antlers, and they're worth a lot of money. And so you go out as a kid and you get a piece of rope and you go and you find horns that have fallen on the ground, and doesn't matter what they look like, if they're white, if they're brown, and brown means that they have just been shed, and then the white means that they've been through a little bit of weather. But we would gather them all up, and man, one year I found a bull elk. It was a royal bull, which means it's 6 on each side, and it was a fresh shed, and I got $180.
Oh my goch, as a kid, that's like $1 million.
So I shared it with my brother because he helped me carry it home, but we had a really good Christmas that year because I had a lot of money. And yeah, I mean, I really do have a lot of love for the outdoors, and that I wonder if sometimes people are, again, going back to the mentality of Salmon, is there's a lot of crafting. And one time I went to one of my friend's moms, and she had made this beautiful plate that had a mirror in it and stuff. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that is so cool. You're going to have to teach me how to do that." And she said, "Honey, you're not poor enough to know how to do this." It's just one of those things that you literally have to say, what am I going to do with my kids today? And I literally have gas money to get there, or we don't have any gas money. We're going to walk there, or we're going to go with someone that has gas money. You just have to, it's a mentality of looking outside the box of what can we do, and we don't have any money to do it.
Well, it's kind of that pioneer spirit, making the best out of what you've got and just figuring out and being happy still with all that you have.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. I think that even with what we do, you're in economic development, which is a lot of kind of the fruits of our labor, right? And so gratitude has to be the foundation of what you're doing everything for. And we literally had a lot of gratitude in our family for the fish that were in the stream, and we had horns to go horn hunting. And, my parents would teach us how to find wild onions, and we'd look all day for wild onions. I think about it all the time, and I think, man, they were really good at getting us to keep us busy. Guess what? You get to make mint tea if you can find it. And so we'd go and try to find mint all day. And it took a lot, because I don't know if you've ever dried wild mint, but it takes a lot to be able to make some tea. I was thinking it was a couple of leaves, but we really did. And that leads me to the exciting piece that you've done, which is the hot springs piece. It's really, really close to my heart. It was something we did as a family. My dad did end up getting a job, and we lived here in Idaho, and I was homeschooled. I went from amenities, I went from family, and we moved out west, no amenities. We had no electricity, no running water. We lived in a school bus and then a 2-room cabin. And my dad would travel to work, and then he would only come home every once in a while. And then also my mom, to keep us busy, is hot springs was something that we did that, yes, it cost us money as far as packing lunch. My mom would pack up a whole cooler full of bologna sandwiches, which I can't even believe I ate bologna sandwiches. But we should pack up a big old lunch, and then we would go up and we would hike to some of the hot springs, and some of them we would just, drive. We're able to drive to them, but they were all free. And I was telling you about some that we have here locally, and how, you take your kids to it and it smells like eggs, and, it's bubbling up under your feet, and it's all natural and organic and just a part of our culture here in Idaho that is just priceless. And a lot of people are like, what? There's a hot springs that you can go to that is just in the creek. And it's just amazing that we live in an area that has such an abundance of geothermal water, which I learned was, the actual language of what. And so, no, it's exciting. And I've told you about one in Sun Valley. And it's a pretty close kept secret, but
is that one you're willing to share?
Yes, I would love to. Okay. I don't know if they'll be as happy as I am to be sharing it, but I really feel like it promotes, our economic development to go up to Sun Valley and check it out. It's really worth it, especially if you're new to the area or if you've been here, and it's Frenchman's. You can look it up, and
we'll link to that on the show notes.
Frenchman's is the name of it, but it's off of Warm Springs Road. So if you're driving up to Sun Valley, you'll see Sun Valley Road, and you cross it. Well, then it V's, and you can go to the left, and it goes down Warm Springs Road, or you can go straight. It goes to Stanley. Mm-hmm. So you go down Warm Springs Road and you go until the concrete ends. Mm-hmm. And then after the concrete ends, it's exactly 6 miles to the hot springs. So you go on this, and it's a very beautiful gravel road. It's gravel, but there's people that drive their BMWs and Range Rovers on it. So it is not like a typical, but you can camp along the way. We rode our bikes one time, and it is 11% grade. Oh. I just have to forewarn you that I did it and did not realize that it was going to be so hard to get up there. But there's lots to do even just on the way up. You can go camping, you can have a picnic, but if at the 6 mile mark, you'll cross a bridge. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you cross the bridge, it'll take you all the way to the left with the road. And then you just need to, there's usually typically cars parked there, but if not, you just look down to the other side of the bridge, and there's all these man-made pools. You can make it hotter,
you probably
colder.
See the steam and stuff.
Not really. It's kind of down in the creek. Maybe during the winter time. Probably certain times a year you could. Mm-hmm. Because it's pretty warm. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can make it because it's in a creek, which is super cool.
So crazy. Like,
it is so cool. Yeah. And you have to be careful. You have to give everybody there are some areas that are super hot and what to look for, even for yourself. You don't want to read the link before you go up there if you can. If you're adventurous, just pack a lunch and go, which is what I did with my kids, and they're still talking about it. And you can actually get in the creek and get cold and then jump into the warm water. It's not very deep. It probably goes, when you're sitting up to your shoulders, but it's just wonderful. And when you get done, you just feel like you've been to a European spa.
And it was free.
And it's all natural and it's free. And that's the thing, is that Idaho just continues to provide. I mean, it's amazing how it continues to just be this great place to live, but then also surprise us with these different secret spots.
I know. And that's what we're trying to tease out, is find and I'm constantly finding new ones all the time. And everybody that I talk to on this podcast has somewhere different that they're really into or passionate about. And I think it's just because we have so much endless land that we have access to that you could spend your whole life here and not find everything that there is amazing here.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I used to work for the Forest Service.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. When I was growing up.
You've got such an interesting...
I do. I was a worker. Anybody that knows me knows that I really enjoy people. I just love working with people. So I was the welcome lady at the front of the Forest Service in North Fork Forest Service. And we used to hand out these posters, and I still have them. So you would have the wild mushrooms of Idaho, or the wildflowers of Idaho. And some of them you can't even get anymore. And so I'm really excited that I have them. I have all the snakes of Idaho. We had to let people know about rattlesnakes, and we had to let them know also about, poison oak and what it looks like, and forewarn people when they come to the area. That was kind of my welcoming committee, is beware. There's poison.
Don't go chopping through the bushes.
Yeah, don't go, look for these type of things. And then if this happens, just, know that you were caught by the poison oak.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting place to live for sure. I have another one though.
Oh yeah, let me know.
Okay. So another really cool hot springs that is not on your sheet is called Goldbug.
Goldbug, okay.
And Goldbug's really hard to find, actually. Well, I don't know if it's really hard to find, not if you're from, but you actually go almost up to Elk Bend. So you go north on Highway 93.
Okay.
You're going to go from Arco and take a left and go towards Chalice.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So then when you leave Chalice, you're going to go towards Salmon.
Okay.
So it's between Chalice and Salmon.
Okay.
And then if you look up the Goldbug Hot Springs, it's at a mile marker. And I don't remember the mile marker because I just know where it is. But you can look up the mile marker. But there is, right before Elk Bend, a mile marker. And you turn in there and it looks like you're actually in someone's house. And it's kind of awkward in their yard, but you're not. And there's a path and you can walk. And it's a big hike.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mile.
Oh.
Well, I say that it's a mile and you go, oh, that's not very much. It's intense.
Is it pretty steep?
Oh, it's intense. And so when you think, this is like nothing, I can tell you this. I work out like every day. And I'm telling you.
I sit in my chair
okay.
at my desk.
Well, there's a lot of people that I've talked to that are like, oh, this is going to be cake. And I don't know how it is. It switchbacks all the way up, but it's in the like a ravine of this mountain or this hillside. And you get up there and it's really cool if you can do it and you're strong enough to like know how to get back, but to do it right at dusk.
Oh, uh-huh.
So when and the stars come out and you're like in the high, but you feel like you're really up high because you can't see the trees and everything below you, but you're in this hot springs and you look out and there's just the stars and it is so awesome. And it's a really nice one. It's, a lot of them you can go to have a lot of debris and moss and algae and stuff, but these are really clean because they're very active and so they're moving really well. And again, that one is a fun hike. I don't know if you could take small kids. I've seen my friends take their kids in like backpacks and stuff, and I don't know how they did it.
At first I was like, a mile, that's no problem. And then I'm like, ugh.
It's pretty intense. So, I highly recommend those two. But
it sounds like it's worth it. Like you're going to work really hard, but then you're going to get up there and it's going to be so
many.
Nice.
And, like here, I bought this book at Sportsman's Warehouse, and it's called The Hot Springs of the Pacific Northwest. And my goal was to like go visit all the hot springs here locally. There's one in Fairfield that I've never made it to. Oh. There's one north of Ketchum, just a little bit before you get to Stanley, and it's like at this, I don't know, they like try to tell you how to get there, and you've got to try to find it. So it's almost like a scavenger hunt of warm water.
That
like
sounds
you're trying
awesome.
to find this tub in the middle of the woods. Yeah. But there's a lot of them, and they're listed in this book, but I'm really excited that you guys did the 12.
Well, you were our inspiration. Like ever since you told me about that, I was like, we need to do that as one of our 12 cool things.
Well, it's a really cool opportunity for our community, especially with as many families that we have. And especially when you're trying to figure out like, what can we do when you have 5 children and jump time is out. Yeah. Like I love jump time. I don't misunderstand me. And that's great. But you're just looking for a quick, easy, like pack a lunch. Let's go. I don't want to spend $80, Yeah. And and something different. And, right now, I think as a society, we're trying to find things that get us out.
Yeah, not on a screen or
like my kids especially. I have a 7 and a 9-year-old, and I'm constantly finding things that are challenging them. Like, why does it smell like eggs? Well, let's look it up. It's called sulfur. And and then they're like so interested in that. And so there's just a lot of really cool stuff that you can drum up from going to these different places.
Well, it's a learning experience not only about what creates the geothermal water, but also just like being out in the wilderness. I think a lot of kids, and even myself to a certain degree, like didn't grow up with having to learn how to live outside and have good wilderness survival skills and those sorts of things. And if there's ever an apocalypse, I'm going to come find you because obviously you're the one that's going to make it because you're going to be able to identify the wild mushrooms.
Get used to invited to different, I want to say parties, but I didn't really party, but so that I could start the fire because I could start a fire faster than anyone, and I could horn hunt. I was a little hiker, a little buff, potatoes as we call them in my family. But you really bring up a good point, which is that, our surroundings are just so vast, and there's so many things like 4-H, you go in 4-H and they're like, find all these rocks. Like you can go out and find all these flowers, and it's just an environment where it's possible. And people are moving here from all over and they're moving away, right? I mean, I moved away and I lived in a big city, and I was just, I missed it so much. It's like your heart is missing that freedom and the safety. I almost feel like wilderness is a safety net. I don't have to worry about light because when it gets dark, you go to bed. Yeah. Like that's just what happens. I mean, it just, and then when it gets, you get up in the morning, you just get up and you just go to town, it's like, and then I remember one time when I finally got to go to school and I was a freshman and I had a birthday party out at our house that was in the wilderness, and still no electricity, no running water, right? And I remember all my friends saying, "Gosh, you have a lot of chores." And I, because we had to bring water in and we had to get wood at night and we had to, there was a lot of things we had to do to survive, which is and I just laughed and I said, "This isn't because a chore. This is survival. Like if I don't bring in the water, then that means mom has to bring in the water." And
we need it for dinner.
We're a team, you know, and it just is, it's an interesting thing to grow up where I lived in Pennsylvania, had amenities, lived down the street from my grandparents, had lights and went to school and had consistency with being around people. And then you move out into the wilderness and the library. One of the biggest things in our community that is a wonderful asset is our libraries. And in Salmon, I loved our library. Like I just have such fond memories of going in there and stacking myself up because we only came out once a month. So I only saw people once a month. Yeah. Can you imagine?
No.
It's
just one of those things. I think on some respect, I was actually just reading an article about people going on these like digital detox retreats or whatever, where they'll go somewhere in the world where like they can't get Wi-Fi and they don't have internet. They're just out in the jungle by themselves. And I was like, gosh, that sounds really nice. Yeah. But like that was your life and you were just out there with your family. And I think it probably didn't seem great at the time.
Oh, it did.
Coming from Pennsylvania. It did?
It did.
Yeah.
I tell that to people all the time. Just as interesting how we have this reunion. We all go up there for a week and literally you go down this road and there's no more internet or cell phone service. And so we all know it. And we're like, okay, we're on the big flat is what we call it. And so you're on the big flat and that just means that you're going to lose service. And then that's it for like probably 100 miles. There's no cell service at all. And if
people want to get out there and just like disconnect from the world, just be at peace.
Well, there's
with themselves.
No wanting. It's forced. Like it's so fun to watch the kids. So all the young kids have their phones or their tablets or whatever. And they were on the big flat and we all know it. We all know they're going to lose their service. And like literally within like 5 minutes after they lose it, they're like, what? What do you mean? And I'll never forget, like we went to one reunion and we came out and it was like Michael Jackson died and like all these things happened. And we were like, I had no idea we'd been out there for
the world just kept on spinning.
No, and even radio is, we get some radio, but it's very limited because of how our property is located in the mountains. And it's just and to be living in Chief Joseph's grandson, there's just good mojo. I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's a piece of property that you just don't find anymore, but there's so many. In our area, look at, you travel and you travel too throughout our region. And it's amazing that we get to live in this area. And then there's people that, Pennsylvania's beautiful. A lot of other states are beautiful, but they're not like Idaho. I don't know how to explain it.
And I think that's the hard thing is that we're having that hard time is like, how do we tell people what is so special about Idaho? Because it's one of those things you kind of have to experience because you can say it's beautiful and you can say the people are friendly and you can say there's all this outdoors, but people will hear that and they'll come here and they'll be like, I had no idea that there was and there was so much. And like it's hard to explain. It's just a special, different sort of place.
Well, and that's the part that's the good mojo part. Mojo's hard to explain, right?
Yeah, it's a feeling kind of.
It's a feeling. And like when you come into town and someone does greet you the way that they said, and or that you imagined that a nice, warm, friendly town would greet you. And it's, even for me, people, even my kids will say, do you know them? And I'm like, no, I was just trying to help them. It just is what we do. And you don't meet strangers. And I think that that's what's super special about Idaho and especially our area specifically is I think when you grow up in a small town, you recognize needs at a different level. Your empathy and your compassion are at a heightened level. They you think to yourself, oh my gosh, are they going through what I went through?
And I bet that feeds a lot into what you do with the United Way.
Oh my gosh, completely. Like I tell people all the time, I always say that I work for a lot of other employers because I just joke about it because I work with them so much, but I have done a lot of jobs in my life. Oh, not like short term. It's not like I'm a hopper or anything like that. But I worked long durations. I worked double jobs. I worked 2 jobs and 3 jobs. And I just really, that was BC. Just letting you know. That was before
kids.
children.
Yeah.
Okay. BC was before children. And it's once you have children, it's a whole different world. But I did work a lot. And I always think about working for the United Way and serving our community is everything I've done has led me to what I do and how I connect and how I relate. Like, you know, I meet you and you probably have money to go to somewhere. Not that we don't love medicine and not that we don't love Natsupa, which we go there frequently, but it's just also teaching our children and duplicating that it's not all about that.
Yeah.
Life is not about money is not going to solve or make us happy. It's the experiences and the relationships that I think really, truly make our heart happy.
I think so too. And I think people get stuck in that trap where they're like, if I just spend this money on this item, or if I just spend this money and go do this thing, it'll make me feel better. And maybe it will for a short while, but you still are always chasing that good feeling. And if you don't spend the time to develop those relationships or develop you as a person, and then you'll always be busy. Then I think about that sometimes when people talk about people being stuck on their phones all the time, that like, and I'm guilty of this sometimes too, that I'll be sitting somewhere, I'll be in line somewhere, and instead of just being like alone with my thoughts while I stand in line, I had to get my phone out to entertain myself for the 3 minutes that I'm standing in line. And I'm like, why can't I just be at peace with myself and stand in line and look at the beautiful day and take in my surroundings? And I think having those experiences that your family does when you have your reunions and growing up that way probably is a nice reminder to say, I don't need my phone on me all the time. No. I don't need to be constantly plugged in.
It is probably one of the coolest things still to this day when we all go there. It's almost like it's a healing process. You know, you go out to the property, you don't have an option. You know, in this life, we have tons of options. We have tons of cell phone carriers. We have tablets. We've got computers. We've got the phone. I mean, phones are everywhere. Remember, they used to be like the rotary and it was like, do you have a phone or a pay phone? You know, you'd stress out if there'd be. Now it's just so accessible. And that's the thing is technology is so accessible. Well, when you go to Salmon or you go to anywhere really north of Shoshone, good luck. You know, there's a lot of dead space in there too, but it just is it's nice because it's a forced. There is no option. You can't go, oh, I wonder if I should talk on my phone or answer my emails. There is none. No. You're stuck. Yeah. And then you're an hour and a half from town. Yeah. So there's no hurry to going to get anything done.
Yeah. So you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to talk to the person next to me, or I'm going to cultivate myself or a hobby or my relationship.
Or stare at the fire. Like there is nothing better than a campfire. Like you just hear the crackling and the smell and you just kind of sit there and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I could totally like snuggle up right now. You know, and I think also the part that I love about our area is, you know, just teaching our kids, you know, just teaching them how important a campfire is to relationships. And I think that with what we do, economic development and also the United Way and making a connection between our community and growth are very, very much intertwined, which is why we connect. Like, I get it. Yeah. You know, I'm like, in order for us to survive, we have to sustain. And in order to sustain, we have to be able to constantly talk about gratitude.
For sure. And I think that's one of the things about economic development, whereas we're always trying to grow and we're always trying to get bigger and add more jobs and add more prosperity. But it's also nice to sit back and think about like all that we have. Yeah. And this area has been incredibly fortunate and we have a lot, but there are a lot of people in the community who still are without. And I think that's why it's so great that there are organizations like the United Way of Central Idaho and many others who give back, because there are other people who may be wealthy in love and other things, but maybe are having a hard time putting food on the table or getting their kids to and from school or just a million of other things. Yeah.
And that, you know, and that's the thing I think that I get excited about too, about what you're doing is you're sharing things that give people hope. I think gratitude is important, but so is hope. I mean, you have to have hope that tomorrow's going to be better. Or, I tell my kids every morning, I'm like, okay, give me one thing about today that's going to give you like hope that it's going to be a good day, and it's hard for them to think about that. Like ask your kids, say, what are you grateful for today? What is, that's hope. And I think that when you are struggling, and that's what the United Way does help with, and we work with tons of organizations that work with that as well. And I think we work with great partners, but hope is what really keeps us going, that it's going to get better. Yeah. And that we have tomorrow to turn to.
Is that something that you feel like you got from your parents from that experience? Is just like, it sounds like your mom was always like the eternal optimist. She was like,
it was both of them, my mom and my dad worked very well. And I always say they were good manipulators, but it's, it just is being able to focus on something different than what you're focused on. Well, that's great that you're struggling with that, but why don't you think about this? Or guess what, kids? And I'd be like, what? And they're like, you get to catch your dinner tonight. Well, we didn't know we didn't really have anything to make. So we would be out there catching our own dinner and cooking it. You get to cook it yourself. And that was a big deal. My mom was, the person in the kitchen that really didn't let you in the kitchen. And you get to cook your own meal. And it just was a big deal. I mean, let your kids cook their own meal. Let them be able to catch their own meal and have fish that they caught or that they provided.
There's so many kids of the day that couldn't cook their own meal. No. And they're going to go off into the world and be like, I'm hungry. Where's my mom?
And that, I think that's the takeaway about what I could provide for my message, I guess, would be is that if you can teach your kids how to survive, how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, how to be kind to someone, ask for a discount. I always ask everybody for the family discount. Anyone that knows me is like, oh, she's going to ask me. And I just think
if you don't ask, you don't get.
You don't ask, you don't get. And I think that it's the same thing. Like people will say, well, why did they do that? Or how come I go, because I asked. Like they can say no and I'll be back tomorrow, but at least I asked. Yeah. And survival for our children is really going to be important, including times of challenge, right? You have to show them how to get through it. Do you think that no one's going to have any challenges or being poor and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's like something to really embrace and learn from.
Yeah. Because I think it makes you stronger and more resilient. I mean, if everything was sunny and roses every day, you wouldn't grow from that. We grow from the challenges we have in our lives. And I think that's a good lesson to instill for children and for everybody, because you never know what tomorrow will bring.
Yeah, I laugh because, you and I have talked about like lots of events that we've done or successes, and people are always like, you're so good at what you do. And I say the same thing to you or lots of other people. And the one thing that I can say for sure is I have a lot of failure rate. Oh, you know, I mean, I have tried some things. I'm not saying this because I'm just saying from experience, please don't do that. It's a really great opportunity for us to share our failures. And you meet any person that has been super successful, they talk a lot about their failures. And I don't say failures in a negative way, but
learning experiences.
You have to be able to say, I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to put that worm this way because it fell off. It's one of those things that I definitely have a lot of, and it's really been fun.
Well, I think what you mentioned earlier about the wilderness in Idaho is kind of like a safety net. If you if you fell on hard times, I have no doubt that you would be able to survive and thrive. And even if that means catching your dinner or, doing those sorts of things. And I think not only that the land provides for us, both for food, but the community does too. We have a very giving community, and I think we're always looking out for each other here. And I think that's really nice.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head with that too, about asking. Yeah. How many people go struggling and they don't ask for help because they're proud or they feel like we'll make fun of them or, I definitely was taught early on that you have to stick together, right? That's the potluck mentality. That's how we created a meal, as we said, hey, do you have anything to bring? And some people had nothing and they would say, I'm dishwasher. And they would say, I'm this person and I'll do the cleanup, I'll prep cook. And it was literally that some people didn't have anything. It just really helps you in the community to know how to give optimism and again, be filled with gratitude. I am definitely filled with gratitude. Anyone that knows me is.
I was struck by that when I first met you, just like your optimism and your bubbly personality. I was like, I need to get to know her. Like,
well, and I was thinking the same thing, obviously about you. You move here and you're given a great big challenge in a big region. I mean, Region 4 is massive.
It's pretty big.
It's 75, 80 miles in circumference, and it's a lot of need. It's a lot of growth. It's a lot of training. And how do you reach all those people? And so I commend you on doing the podcast. I think it's a great opportunity, and being able to also diversify your reach. I think it's great because you try to say, okay, who else could we talk to that would be able to share something of value? I definitely hope that people turn to me. And that's why I always tell Bill, my boss at the United Way, that I hope that people turn to us for more than just like, oh, we got to make a donation, or, oh, like turn to us as friends. Like, we're here for you to help you work through things, or, if you need help, we definitely want you to think of us as an organization that is there.
Yeah. And you've definitely been that way. Like, we've talked about events and things like that, and you've given me great ideas about how to make them successful. And I think you're definitely a resource in the community for things. And the Leader Cast things you guys put on are amazing.
This year's going to be awesome.
I'm so looking forward to it.
It's going to be awesome. But I really appreciate you being able to kind of share a little bit about my background and Chief Joseph. We just had a presentation by Best Notes. Oh. And he showed a tomahawk thing, and he said this was Chief Joseph's, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was raised on Chief Joseph's grandson's property, and we used to find tomahawks and arrowheads.
Oh, wow.
But we were just so uneducated that they were of value that we each tried to reattach them to sticks and use them ourselves. We were just trying to wow, this is cool. Let's make a bow and arrow, Another interesting thing is when we moved out west, we were vegetarians. Oh. And so we moved to Idaho, and there is not much growing in salmon. We were talking
especially
potatoes.
In the winter time.
Oh, yeah. It was November. There was no health food store except for Beulah's. And if anyone can remember Beulah's, it was a great health food store, but it wasn't super abundant in options. Yeah. And so we moved there, and oh my goodness, my dad was like, oh, we've got to go get them, some food. So I was 3 when we stopped eating meat. So how much meat do you have by the time you're 3?
No.
So I'm 13. My dad goes out. He gets an elk. And the first meat that we ate was an elk heart. Oh. So you have to eat everything of the animal. You can't.
I'm picturing you. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
Yes.
I'm picturing you like Daenerys with a horse heart.
No, my mom breaded it and put it and sauteed it in butter. And it was really, actually, elk heart is one of my favorites still to this day.
I've never had it.
You've never had elk heart? Oh my goodness. Elk heart is wonderful. But then the second thing, our second meal was elk liver. And elk liver is it's a texture thing, but it doesn't taste bad. It was really good. And for never having it wasn't like we were over there going, ew, And then we finally got to have a steak in a sense, but we never really adhered to it after being vegetarians for so long. It was just kind of interesting how moving out west, and when it was like steak and potatoes, and they always say that, but it's true.
Yeah, it definitely is.
We had co-ops in Pennsylvania. There were no co-ops out here. It was like, what do you got? Yeah. That was the co-op.
Just out there making it work. Any other secret spots, hot springs, or things people should check out?
Another few that are real, and again, this is kind of going north. There is one by Fairfield, but I don't know the name of it, but I challenge you to go and find it. Yeah. It's over by Fairfield. There's a snowmobiling path over there, and it has a hot springs.
If anyone knows what it is, share with us in the comments or on our channels because we want to find out. It's in the book.
Yeah. It's in the book. I've seen it in the book. The other hot springs, again, if you decide to make it to Sacagawea's home, which is in Salmon, is there's one called Panther Creek Hot Springs, and it is a really, really cool. It's really big. It's a lot bigger than some of the ones I mentioned, but and it's very organic. You have to be very careful because the hot water comes down off the rocks, and so it's coming out scalding. Yeah, it comes out. It will burn you instantly. So, there's a lot of education that needs to go in. So I definitely say check it out. But I think I've given you a couple plus the ones that you listed. I think it's exciting that we're really trying hard to elevate that. We have some really cool spots, and they're warm. Like, I think a kid, sometimes they love going fishing and, going kayaking and stuff, but it's kind of cold.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never liked cold water.
Yeah.
And then when you can take them somewhere and they're so fascinated with the fact that it's in a creek, but it's hot.
Yeah. You're like, how does this happen?
And it's so fun. I journaled, I don't know if anybody else journals, but whenever I do trips with my kids, I journal, and it is so fun for them to be able to go and have an adventure. But
well, Idaho's one of those places where you can still go out and have those backcountry adventures and not see another person. You can just be out there on your own, disconnected from the world, just having your adventure out in the wilderness with your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of dangerous. I guess you
should let someone know where you're going.
Leave a note. Yeah. Call a friend. Text a friend before you lose cell service.
Yes, exactly.
I was just thinking about Goldbug. Goldbug is really fun. It's fun if you have, a couple friends that you want to go with. And we should do it.
Yeah.
Chalice has a great hot springs too. Chalice Hot Springs is one of my favorites. Have you ever been there?
I haven't been to any hot springs. I don't know. I've been in Idaho for however many years.
We're going to have a hot springs day. We're going to at least go do Frenchman's.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, it'll be good. Well,
I think we're going to check some off this Christmas. My husband and I think are going to check maybe Frenchman's or Elkhorn.
Well, I don't think you can get to Frenchman's in the winter.
Oh.
Because Warm Springs.
Because of the snow on the
hard.
gravel.
Yeah, you can't get out there.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you told me.
Yeah, they'd have to snowshoe. Actually, I take it back. I think you could snowshoe.
Yeah.
And I think people do. And it says no skinny dipping, but be forewarned.
There
can be. I was like, I forgot that when you get out there can be some people that are skinny dipping. And my kids got out of the car and I'm like, no. But there wasn't anybody that day. So I was in luck. So yeah, it says no skinny dipping on the sign, but be forewarned.
That's good to know. So Sonya, where can people find you if they want to get involved with the United Way, or if they just want to find out more about the awesome things that you're doing, like Instagram, website, Twitter?
Facebook is one of the most popular places that I post a lot of stuff about what we're doing and just updated events like either in LeaderCast and things like that is Facebook, and it's the United Way of South Central Idaho.
Okay.
And then our website is www.unitedwayscid, which stands for South Central Idaho.org.
Okay, perfect. We'll put links to that in our show notes page. So
that'll be wonderful. And anything that, the community has questions about or would like to reach out and just share, then I'm excited to hear.
Awesome. Perfect. Sonya, thank you so much for joining us on Secrets Out Idaho. We really appreciate what you're doing in the community, and for you sharing your secret spots here in the area.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Connie.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening to Secrets Out Idaho. You can follow Southern Idaho Economic Development on social media or visit southernidaho.org to learn more. Please take a moment to leave a rating and review and subscribe so you can be the first to hear more Secrets Out Idaho. Until next time.